Since I was deplatformed, I've been following like alt-right circles and white nationalist circles, strange bedfellows, as they would call it. And I'm trying to like piece together or synergize kind of a new ideology, kind of a Hungarian dialectics that blends my best parts of anarcho-capitalism and the best parts of National Socialism together to form a new kind of ideological movement. What's your first impression of that?
Well, yeah, I think it's nonsense, obviously. National Socialism is bad philosophy based in the works of Hegel. It requires contradictions to be true. As with all Hegelian derivatives, I don't think National Socialism is correct in any way. I think it's a fool's errand to try and combine socialism, any form of socialism, with anarchism, obviously.
A little bit more specific. I think I'm combining the political and economic realities of anarcho-capitalism with the culture and rhetoric of National Socialism. Does that make more sense?
Well, in what way?
Well, Ayn Rand and Hitler both agree on the importance of art and culture and rhetoric, theatrics, to present the case.
Okay, so maybe you want to frame that in a different way. Instead of saying I want to combine anarcho-capitalism and National Socialism, you say I'm an anarcho-capitalist and I also like art. If that's the part of a National Socialism you're trying to get.
It's the culture of National Socialism. So like the theatrics, the fact that...
The collectivism?
No, not the sometimes collectivism, if it needs to be. I don't want a sickly, strict individuality or individualism.
So, I mean, when is collectivism good?
Well, that's up to you to decide, us to decide.
I mean, it's just whim? Like, if I decide collectivism is good here, then it's good here?
Well, you got to be more specific on collectivism. Like, you want a collectivism of ANCAPs?
No, I don't. Anarcho-capitalism is fundamentally an individualist take on law. You can't have a collectivist ANCAP. That's nonsense.
A collectivist group of ANCAPs who serve in the collective.
You mean like a group?
You said a group, a collective.
Right, that's not what collectivism means, though. Collectivism isn't just saying that sometimes groups happen or are good or anything like that. Collectivism is saying that the fundamental political unit of society is the collective, not the individual, which is false, completely at odds with anarcho-capitalism.
That's because, well, for my objective reasoning, is because there's only the individual that exists, and the collective is a bunch of individuals.
Right, so the fundamental constituent of society is the individual. That's individualism, completely at odds with collectivism.
You can group individuals.
Yeah.
So when does that become a collective?
Well, that's collectivism doesn't simply claim sometimes there are groups of individuals. That's absolutely not what collectivism claims. Collectivism is claiming that the fundamental constituent of society is the collective, that individuals are cells in the collective body, in the similar way that your body, fundamentally, that is the fundamental unit there. Saying that your skin cells are the fundamental unit, that's false, right, as far as politics is concerned. So it comes from Plato, fundamentally. Plato thought that the really real reality was the world of forms, where there's the form of man, right? This is collective, man as a total. Right, he thought that was the fundamental constituent of reality there. And collectivism as a political movement.
My eyes is glazing over again. This is too abstract for me.
Well, so the way you can think about it is that collectivism would say that you and I are not fundamentally individuals first. We are fundamentally, depending on the type of collectivism, humans first, or fundamentally white people first, or fundamentally I am a British person and you're an Australian. That these are the fundamental ways we deal with this. Right, that'd be what collectivism claims. Yeah, yes, first.
Thirds.
Well, then that's not collectivism.
Okay, well, it doesn't seem like a much distinction to me. So I object to collectivism as a unit, that kind of mainframe. So like individualism, then you can't just be an individual. You have to like form a collective.
You have to form groups, certainly, if you want to have the best type of life. That is indeed the optimal way of living is division of labor. That's not the claim of collectivism. Because collectivism, you can't even talk about division of labor. Because division of labor, that's an individualist concept. That's saying that this individual is best at this particular task, and then they can go ahead and trade with other individuals. Right? That's on an individualist framework. Collectivism would have something like central planning instead. That's a completely different way of looking at economics, at politics, at law, at everything.
Then you have corporations, and corporations can have thousands of people working in them. That would be a collective, wouldn't it?
No, not necessarily.
Or like thousands of individuals.
So an individualist would deny that the collective is the fundamental political unit. Collectivists would say that, in fact, the collective is the fundamental political unit.
Okay. Well, I'm not a collective then. The thing is, Ayn Rand was very much an individualist. I haven't really heard it described as you've heard it, though. I guess I'm a little confused at the moment. Well, what National Socialism wanted to do is unite all Germans, right, into the Reich. Is that a form of collectivism?
Yes, because fundamentally he saw it as, he believed in polylogism. He thought that Germans had a different sort of logic than, for instance, Jews or any other race, right? That's what he believed. He believed in collectivism, that the fundamental political unit was the German race in that instance versus the Jewish race in that instance, which is utterly false.
But he did talk about the individual Germans a lot.
Perhaps it's difficult to speak entirely in collectivist terms, but that was the philosophy.
I don't think he had a philosophy. I think he was just...
Of course he had a philosophy. It's called National Socialism.
So, National Socialism was the name of his party.
Well, no, the name of his party was the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which were National Socialists. That is the philosophy behind it. In the same way that the Communist Party of the USA, that is the name of the party, but they are communists. That is the philosophy they follow.
Yeah, the communists followed Marxism. Karl Marx. It has a clear ideology work there, but there's no primary sources for National Socialism kind of thing. He came into that after it was formed, so he didn't really invent that.
Well, whether you think he invented the philosophy of National Socialism doesn't dispute whether National Socialism is a philosophy. Like, it clearly is a philosophy.
Think it is.
Why not?
I don't think it is, because it was a political party.
No, it was a philosophy where some members who believed in that philosophy formed a political party, in the same way as every communist party across the planet Earth.
There was no philosophy before the party. He created it over time as his party kind of went into history, went into the time periods. So it kind of reinvents itself every time.
Right, but what was he creating? A philosophy?
It was creating a political party that...
What were the principles upon which this political party operated?
Nation and vote first.
Right, are those philosophical principles? I mean, it sounds like collectivism to me.
He got his
Nation, vote first.
Observing...
The people first. That is collectivism. Right, that is collectivism.
So saying race first is collectivism.
Yes, it's treating the race as the fundamental political constituent of reality. Like, he had beliefs across all sorts of different subjects in philosophy. I suggest you look into... Tick History has done deep dives on Hitler's philosophy before. It absolutely was a philosophy.
History is not that good. I've read every primary source I have on Hitler, and he's very much mischaracterized through history for obvious reasons. You are from the UK, right?
Yes.
There's tensions between you and that time period because you guys were at war?
Sure, but that's not the reason why I don't like National Socialism. I mean, you were saying how, when I was talking about philosophy before, I was kind of going over your head, which, is not a dig at you. But perhaps you just didn't see, you didn't read into it in philosophical terms if you're not a philosopher. There absolutely was a philosophy.
I just don't think there was one. He never really addressed any of this. Like, he had influences, but this thing he created was his own thing.
What type of thing was it?
A political party.
So what does National Socialism mean?
National Socialism is the name of his political party.
No, his political party was called the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Is it possible for there to be National Socialists who are not in that party, because the party, of course, doesn't exist anymore?
I'd say it's possible for people to identify with that if they're following...
Identify with what?
Body politic, what they were doing.
Right, so it's possible for people to identify with some sort of backing thing, which is what the National Socialist German Workers' Party followed. What is the name for that thing? It's the philosophy of National Socialism.
There isn't really a way to find out what that philosophy is.
Of course there is. You read the National Socialist Philosophers.
Were they?
Yeah, there were National Socialist Philosophers, yes.
Before or after the party was established?
I don't know. Maybe they started the party first and then came up with a philosophy. I don't know. But there absolutely was a philosophy called National Socialism that some people to this day follow, and that you're trying to unite with anarcho-capitalism.
I wouldn't say unite. I'm just trying, like the Hungarian dialectic. I'm trying to grab the best concepts of both, merge them together.
Concepts of both what? Both philosophies?
Yes.
There you go. So there is a National Socialist philosophy.
I wouldn't say that the same way as I would say Marx, like Karl Marx or objectivism. You can't really find out what this philosophy is.
Well, so what do you say to them where they describe themselves as a third position? A third position between what, right? A third position between capitalism and Marxism. Both of these we know are philosophies. So he wants a third position. Some new philosophy, perhaps? Or is he just also either a capitalist or a Marxist? What was his philosophy in this regard? If not one of those two, was a third new philosophy?
Well, he just put his race and his country first. He said that capitalism and communism were both sides of the same Jewish coin, in the sense that he felt that the economic arguments were captured by Jewish people, since the leaders were Jews.
Right, so he thought both of these philosophies were Jewish, and he made a new what? A new philosophy.
It's not really a philosophy, though.
How not?
It doesn't really go into metaphysics or ethics or anything like that. It changes depending on the time period,
the philosophy might change over time, just as Cartesians, that philosophy changed over time. but it still is absolutely a philosophy.
Okay, I'm not sure where to go from here.
I suppose, do you have any other topics to talk about?
Sure. How do you feel about AI?
Oh, I love it.
I love it. I love it too. How do you feel about this new recent development in communism where they're against data centers? I don't remember reading that in the Communist Manifesto.
Oh yeah, it's based on their philosophy. They hate the good for being the good. This comes directly from Ayn Rand. It's an envious philosophy, as all forms of altruism are. So they hate the good for being the good. That's why they hate data centers. They hate it because they're good.
They hate it because they're good. I thought it was because of environmental reasons.
Well, the environmentalism is itself hatred of the good for being the good. If you look at what an environmentalist is claiming, they're claiming that humans must sacrifice for the sake of the environment, right? That because humans are able to go out there and change things, we ought not to. That is from those sorry, I can't remember the exact slogan. From each according to his ability, to each according to his need.
Each according to his need.
Right? Mm-hmm. Humans have the ability to do these things, and so they should sacrifice that ability for those who can't do that. Right? That's altruism applied not from the rich to the poor, but from humans to nature. It's just the next step of altruism.
I'm not really following that. I just thought it was really ironic that they want a post-scarcity economy, right? For that to happen, to live in a Star Trek universe, we have to have advanced technology basis to draw that from, right? Like AI. So being against data centers for me seems like a self-sabotaging aggression against their own utopian ideals.
Well, of course, because they don't actually recognize the same facts, right? They don't recognize the fact that innovation, that productivity has to come from the individual. They think it comes from the collective, right? They think if you just, pardon me, transition into the next stage of history, called communism, where the proletarians are in charge, that then everything comes from that. Because they are honest-to-goodness collectivists. I
think their ideological stance is more from a hate of rich people than anything else.
Right, that's also altruism.
Sorry?
That's also altruism. And if you do studies of socialists, you find that, in fact, it is the case that their primary motivating factor is envy towards rich people.
Right. Okay. So pro-AI, that's good. I'd like to talk about property rights as well.
Okay.
I have a homestead right here, which is my property legally, and it's big. Now, the state defines that property right for me. How do you view property rights? Is this where I am legitimate for me if I own it? Even if it's really massive?
Well, yes, of course. I don't think law comes from the state. I'm not a legal positivist. I think I believe in natural rights. You have a natural right to homestead, potentially as much property as you can manage. As long as you're forming some sort of exclusionary boundary around that property, you are indeed using it. And then other people, if they tried to come in, they would be initiating a conflict with you, which is aggression.
The thing is, I'm not really using all of it. In fact, most of it I haven't really explored. This is just too big. There are no fences here. Anyone could come in and homestead a small portion of it. I wouldn't even know about it. Would that be valid in your sense?
Well, if there's no public, meaning objective, everybody can see it, boundary around that property, then yeah, it's not being homesteaded. If it's indistinguishable from the environment around you, then no latecomer can tell that you're supposedly homesteaded this thing. So it's not being homesteaded. You should get a fence up. So
anyone can come here and just take a portion of my property away if I homestead it?
Well, yeah, because it's not your property yet. I suggest you build a fence.
A fence?
Yeah, or some sort of way for a latecomer to be excluded, objectively, economically excluded, and where they can see, okay, here is the property boundary. If you don't have that, then there is no property boundary. It's all just make-believe.
Well, all of my neighbors aren't here. They've moved on. But the property's still in their name. If I build a fence that goes through their property, that doesn't become mine.
If they haven't got any sort of objective border, then it was never there to begin with.
Okay, that just sounds odd. The property only exists if I draw a border around it, a physical border. Yeah. It can't be like an abstract border.
Yeah, because otherwise we run into the situation where I just say to the forest, I own that mountain now. This is a verbal decree that I own something. Hopper talks about this. If that is the theory of property you're operating on, conflicts can no longer be avoided. So property rights are no longer conflict-avoiding norms, so we haven't solved the problem of law at all.
I don't want to bring law into this because it makes it more complicated. I'm struggling with this idea now because being here has, what would you say, maybe think about property rights more, because I always use the Robinson Crusoe kind of scenario, libertarianism. And I find myself in a Robinson Crusoe situation here, but most of this land here has been unused for like a decade. A lot of the property owners have moved on or can't be fined. And I've actually come back here after I was unattended for like 5 to 10 years. It is my property, and in fact, I pay taxes if it's under my name. if I come back here and homestead this area, just a small area, but I own more than that, like hectares, but there are no fences around it. So while I was working in Sydney, if someone would have come here and built a fence, it would have become their property under your law.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think you should get to building a fence.
Building a fence is a monumental task. Like some parts I can't even get to because the terrain's too rough.
I mean, that's not really my problem.
That's not your problem, okay. These boundaries exist in government law, like council stuff. So if you look on the maps, you can see the property lines, but I don't see the connection that I have to build a fence for it to be mine.
Look, because let's say I am a Friday in this area, you're Robinson Crusoe, I'm walking along, how is there any possible means I can use to determine, just by walking through that environment, to tell, hey, that's somebody's property there, unless there's some sort of objective border, rather than me having to go over to the town and call up, the bloody government and say, hey, can you give me a map of this area? Right, that's just verbal decrees, right? It's in the exact same way that I have said on stream before, I hereby claim the moon. Would you say that the moon is my property?
No.
Exactly, because it's just a verbal decree. Nobody can possibly tell that I've done that unless they watch through those streams where I've said that. So that's not a legitimate claim of property. In the same way,
how about if someone lands here from a ship, plants a flag, and says, I declare this for the Commonwealth?
Yeah, if they set up borders, then absolutely, that would be kosher.
Kosher. So that's how Australia was formed, and I'm guessing Canada and America as well.
And presumably it was a bunch of flag planting.
I disagree that makes the land there just by planting a flag.
Not just by planting a flag. They have to have a border as well. They have to have an objective. And I'm not talking about government says this is all our land. I'm talking about an actual physical objective border, putting up a fence or something.
Well, there's no borders around Australia. It's just like ocean. So some guy landed in Sydney, Bonny Bay, planted a flag, and then declared the whole land for the Commonwealth.
Yeah, that's not legitimate.
It's not legitimate. Okay. So Australia's not legitimate. UK's not legitimate.
Oh yeah, I'm an anarchist.
Thing is, if we come to an anarchist world, if property rights become solved by the government, it's going to be a shit fight declaring what belongs to what. And I don't believe building fences is a valid way of claiming what's yours.
Why not? That's homesteading.
Because it implies that you own it in the first place.
No, I think the way you establish that you own something is by building a fence around it, or something similar for movable property, of course. You need to have some way for latecomers to tell that there's even supposed to be property right here. Otherwise, you can't avoid conflicts, which is the entire problem we're trying to solve.